Hello everyone and welcome to 9-Inch Charge, a Warhammer Age of Sigmar and Warhammer the Old World discussion channel. Today we're going to continue our series on the Order of Azure by having a look at the Ven Denst Warscroll. The Ven Denst are a new duo of heroes for Cities of Sigmar, a father and daughter witch hunter duo who live to purge witches, heretics and the undead from the mortal realms. As ever, just before we start, if you do enjoy this video, please give it a like. It will really help this new channel to grow and for people to be able to see the videos. And also, please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content like this in the future. Duralia and Galen Van Denst are both named characters and single models. They both carry the keywords Order, Human, Cities of Sigmar, Hero, and Witch Hunter, and they both cost 115 points. They can be taken together or individually. Earlier in this series, I reviewed the Warscroll for Yelson Darroch, who is a witch hunter for Warhammer Quest that can also be used in Age of Sigmar, and he carried a specific Cities of Sigmar faction keyword, which meant that he couldn't benefit from the other cities' specific allegiance abilities. Now, this is not the case here. They just have the keyword Cities of Sigmar, so whatever city you put them in, they will be able to use the abilities of that city. So we're already off to a great start. There are other similarities to the Warscrolls, but we'll come to them later on. Let's get started by having a look at Galen Van Denst Warscroll. As an agent of Azure, Galen Van Denst has executed hundreds of Chaos Cultists and Living Dead over the course of his career. His stoicism and agility are impressive. His skill with Spell Banishing Pistol and Runic Broadsword all the more so. Galen Van Denst is a named character and a single model, and he's armed with a pistol and a broadsword. He has a move characteristic of 6, which is really quick for a human. This is as quick as an elven hero. He has 5 wounds, a bravery characteristic of 8, and a robust 4+ save. His pistol has a range of 9 inches, has 3 attacks, he hits on 3s, wounds on 3s, it has a rend characteristic of 1, and deals 1 damage. This is nice. As we said in the description, Galen does have the ability to dispel with his weapon, so it's a 9-inch dispel range. Personally, I wish it was 10 inches. I have a very, very slight issue with things that are 9 inches in range. The reason being is that a lot of abilities allow units to appear 9 inches away, or other units can appear next to you, but have to be 9 inches away. So what this means is, if he's going to deep strike, for example, if he's in a living city's army and he appears, when he appears, he will be out of range to use his pistol. However, it is just a pistol, it's not a rifle or anything like that, so I think a 9-inch range does suit it, but I would give almost anything for it to be 9.1 inches. His broadsword has a phenomenal 6 attacks at a 1-inch range. Even a free guild general is only going to attack 5 times with his Sigmarite rune sword, so he is really nimble. Despite his age, he is fast on the table and attacks a multiple of times. His broadsword hits and wounds on 3s, has a rend characteristic of 1 and a damage of 1. The damage characteristic isn't going to be world ending on its own. However, when we get into abilities, we will see that there is more to this than meets the eye. Alright, so let's have a look at his abilities. There are 2 abilities that both characters share, so let's have a look at those first. First up, we have Grim Resolve. Witch hunters are tenacious opponents, ignoring the pain of wounds that would fell a lesser person. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this model. On a 5+, that wound or mortal wound is negated. This is great on small characters. There are so many abilities and spells out there that will just wipe out, your smaller characters like this. His wound profile is only 5 wounds, and I know I've been in a situation before where, characters have been blood boiled off, or their spells. For example, Zinch have a spell that can do d6 mortals, and they can use the destiny dice just to make it a flat 6. And just wipe them off. So this is really, really useful. If something like that comes across, it just gives you a bit of hope that actually this won't just take your toys all off the table in one go before you get to use them. 4-up, 5-up is actually one of the most robust saves that you'll see on a hero like this. The next ability we have is Weapons of Banishment. Inlaid with nullstone and silver, Galen's pistol shot and broadsword blade are anathema to spellcasters and their works, banishing all forms of arcane energy in a flash. Double the damage characteristic of an attack made with this model's weapons if the target of the attack is a wizard or a demon. In addition, when this model fights or shoots, you can choose an endless spell to be the target of its attacks. If you do so, roll the dice to see if that attack scores a hit. If it does, do not make a wound or save roll. Instead, roll 2d6. If the roll is greater than the casting value of that endless spell is dispelled. Okay, so this may be situational, but it now really looks like there are times when that broadsword and pistol are really going to shine. He is going to absolutely carve his way through demon infantry like plague bearers, bloodletters, and even be something for the heroes and main characters to watch out for. He's also going to carve through lesser heroes that are wizards with ease, with a potential 18 wound output against these foes a turn. His ability to dispel endless spells is really good as well, because it's when you score a hit roll. So I'm thinking potentially you target the endless spell with your pistol, and you wouldn't say I'm going to shoot all my shots into the endless spell. You might just say I'm going to take it on a 3 up, and I'll roll 1 dice, and then my other 2 shots will go into a unit or a hero, something like that. And it's roll 2d6 against the casting value of the spell. So that is the roll that is required to cast a spell, not the roll that was rolled to cast a spell. So it's what's on the war scroll, which makes it a bit easier, because there's all these buffs to, +1, +2 to cast, but this sees right through that, and you are just trying to roll the amount that is on the war scroll for the endless spell. So this will actually be pretty effective. Again, slightly situational, because you're not always going to see endless spells in every single one of your games. Not all your opponents will take them, but really feeds into the narrative and feeds into the character. And, for free to have an extra dispel, especially with the way magic is in the game at the moment, is fantastic. And the last ability is Agile Opponent. Galen is always on the move, fighting with the utmost balance and surety. This model can retreat and still shoot and or charge in the same turn. Essentially, this means that if he's tied up in combat, it doesn't affect him. He can just brush it off, leave the combat, and still act as if he was never there in the first place. Often I find that an ability like this is really good for propelling a hero across the board, especially if you get the double turn, because it means you can move, you can charge, and then you can retreat, and then you can still charge again before your opponent gets to have a move phase. And he's going to have some fun with this. Going into 10 plague bearers, then retreating off, and then charging into something else. I think I can see this being really effective, and actually, against the right target, he can be quite devastating. However, it does have to be against the right target. It's fine for me, because my most regular opponent is Dan from the 2Ps, who's infamous for taking Khorne. So, I will probably be taking this and thinking, what can I do to his demons? Can I get him into a Bloodthirster? Can I get him into his battle line? But if you were going, for example, to a tournament situation and you didn't know who your opponents were going to be, and on that day, you don't really come across a lot of Chaos players, he may struggle to shine on his own. So with that said and done, let's move on to Duralia Van Denst. Despite her youth, Duralia Van Denst is a renowned agent for the Order of Azure. Not only a hunter of witches and warlocks, she's a specialist in dispelling the endless spells they unleash, banishing them with a consecrated blade and crossbow bolt alike. Like her father, she has a wounds characteristic of 5, bravery 8, a 4+ save. However, despite her youth, she is not quite as quick as her father. She has a 5-inch move, which is standard for all humans across the game. She's armed with a crossbow, which has a massive 24-inch range, 1 attack, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, a rend of 2, and a damage characteristic of 2. This is something that we'll come back to later on, because there's something I really want to talk about with this specific weapon. Other than her crossbow, she's armed with a witch hunter's sword, which has a 1-inch range, hits and wounds on 3s with a rend characteristic of 1 and a damage of 1. As we said previously, she also has Grim Resolve, which makes her really hardy, and she also has Weapons of Banishment, which works exactly the same way as we described previously. This means that against demons and wizards, that crossbow now has a damage characteristic of 4, but it does not end there. Let's couple this with the ability Sure Shot. Duralia rarely misses when she takes up position with her crossbow, each shot putting a bolt between the eyes of another opponent. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of this model's crossbow, and add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with this model's crossbow if this model has not made a move in the same turn. So now, at 24-inch range, we are doing 2 attacks that hit on 2s, wound on 3s, have a rend of 2 and damage 4. For a potential 8 damage. What's more, Games Workshop have recently teased a series of new heroic actions for heroes in Age of Sigmar 3rd edition, one being their finest hour. Pick one friendly hero, add one to wound rolls for attacks made by that hero until the end of the turn, add one to save rolls for attacks that target that hero until the end of the turn. You cannot carry out this heroic action with the same hero more than once in the same battle. So now any army that includes Duralia has the ability, once per game, to make that 2 attacks, 2s to hit, 2s to wound, rend 2, damage 4 on any wizard or demon for a turn. Against those smaller casters, it's going to be absolutely devastating. I mean, you're going to take out an Isharan Tidecaster or a Weird Knob Shaman quite confidently with an attack like this. Also, 8 wounds on a big character like a Bloodthirster or Arkan the Black, potentially. I really think she's worth the 115 points, more so than her dad. The reason being, although he's, super fast and great in combat, you have to be able to get him there. But Duralia's got a 24-inch range, which means that her attacks aren't really limited by her, 1 inch less movement. She's got a massive reach across the table. I'm definitely thinking of bringing her in my Living Cities army. I'm just going to set her up. She wouldn't have moved. She'll get that +1 to hit, and then we'll just start going and taking characters off turn 1. This is great because the more people use this and the more we see Agents of Azure on the tabletop, the more the faction will grow. And as you know, I'm really excited for this faction. I cannot wait to see these. These and Kenothi are top of my list of things that I would like to see, and I think we have a really great opportunity here to add some flavour to your army whilst remaining competitive. Well, I think that's all I have to say on the Ven Denst for now. Really looking forward to using especially Duralia in my games coming up. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you'd like to see more on the Order of Azure, I'll be reviewing pretty much everything for them that comes out. Please consider subscribing. Both things will really help the channel grow. I'd really appreciate it. And I will see you next time.